Okay, so good afternoon, Jim. Nice to see you. What sort of lovely to sort of invite you along to our seminar series today, focused on looking at kind of fundraise in rather strange times in this kind of pandemic world, this crisis. My name's Becky Rose, as you know, and I know you've met me before, and I'm the head of development for the Mighty Creatives. Just contextually for our audiences this morning, that means that I look after our fundraising strategy and plans for the organisation. So I help bring in the money and keep us afloat. Jim, if it's okay, I'm going to hand over to you to introduce yourself, and perhaps just if you could tell us a little bit more about you and kind of your work, and sort of a little bit more about why you're here today, really, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm Jim Shields, and I am the founder of Twist and Shout Communications, which started 27 years ago. So I know I don't look it, but anyway. I wish. That was a film production company, is a film production company. And then about 8 or 9 years ago, we started a publishing company. So that's the second company that we created, which was to license to businesses a lot of the films that we'd made for training employees. So that was the basis of the business. I've always been very keen to work with creative groups, and about 5 years ago I wrote a book to help young creatives and new businesses thrive, and so it was a love letter to the creative industries. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, I've always been very active in coaching young creative people and small businesses in the creative sector to succeed. So that's been a huge part of my new life. I talk about my new life because last year I sold both businesses. So, but now I'm dedicating a lot of my time to helping creatives survive, frankly, in the current world that we live in. So.
Yeah, I think it's such critical work, isn't it? And
absolutely essential.
Yeah, the Mighty Creatives do a lot of work with supporting emerging professionals and looking at kind of their freelance businesses as well as sort of wider business development and things. And actually, in any world, sort of sustainability of those businesses is kind of a critical factor, I guess, that needs considering from day one. And I think
absolutely,
it's fair to say sort of part of that is very much about building relationships and looking at how you develop those partnerships that really help you survive, but more importantly, actually thrive through critical times and crisis points during that kind of lifetime of the business or the organisation that you're in. So, I mean, I guess that really brings me to the point at my first question, I guess, today, which is about. So just thinking about a lot of our delegates today is sort of from the charity sector, sort of from the not-for-profit kind of sector. And I guess what's the key factors for working with business that, you could perhaps sort of share from your perspective, what our, sort of charity sector, what the education sector should be considering when thinking about building relationships with businesses and corporates?
I think the first thing to understand is that there's always been an unusual relationship between big businesses, or any businesses really, and the creative sector. Sometimes we're looked upon as if we don't have a proper job in some respects. There's already kind of a bit of prejudice there in terms of the subject matter. And so when a creative organisation approaches a corporation or a business, it's always seen as quite one-sided. And that doesn't help. And that puts off a lot of people in approaching businesses because they don't feel confident that they've got anything to offer, really. Yeah. They're just asking for money or whatever. So, and the first thing to know is first of all, that's not true. It's just that big businesses don't often understand creative companies and the value that they bring. They really don't. And so it's partly there's an educational job to be done. And so you need to look at your own business and go, what value could we add? If you are, let's say, for example, you're a creative group that engages in drumming workshops for mindfulness and that kind of thing. Obviously, that is something you could even offer to a big business as a service to their HR department, to their development, whoever does their personnel development and well-being. Lots of companies have people on staff now that deal with that as part of their purview. And just looking for opportunities for overlap, for mapping. Now that's a two-way street. So you've got to create your content in such a way that solves a problem for them. And in that case, it might be business is very stressful at the moment and your staff need to be, calm and centered and healthy. But the other way the street goes is that you have to learn about how their business is as well. You have to learn about how it's structured so that you can see these opportunities. So, and it's sometimes quite hard to do. Companies are notoriously secretive about their structure and about who works where and all of that. But one golden tip that I always give people that always does well is if you look for that company and see if they're recruiting in that area, in HR or training and development or that kind of thing, or CSR, corporate and social responsibility, a very important role for us. If you can do some research and see if they're recruiting, that advert will tell you so much about what they're trying to do, what they're trying to achieve, because they put all that information in to attract people. They'll talk about their goals in that area. They'll talk about objectives and even a time frame. They'd never give you that on the phone, but they're happy to put it in an advert for a new member of staff. And so that's quite a good way to start. So just get creative, that's who you are, about researching a company and make it specific. Don't go for a database of 5,000 companies. Pick 10 and start digging. Once we did a mail shot of 5 in Twist and Shout, where we were very creative. In each case, we'd done our research. We sent them 5 things from a charity shop. One went to each company. They're all different. And we wrote a letter about that thing and how it mapped onto a problem they might have. We got 3 projects out of 5, which is for a mail shot, that's a ridiculous hit rate. Normally it's like 1%,
And that's very much just sort of reflecting what you're saying. That's about being very specific and targeted in understanding that, their business, as you say. And I know from experience that has been where we've had the most success, where we've been able to know not only the business and how it operates, but actually what are their critical kind of targets as a business. So an example of that is a relationship we built with a social housing company and sort of looking at it from their beneficiaries' perspective. Actually, what were some of the things that they were really struggling with that actually we could do? And then actually we pitched it in that way. We even took one of our alumni from our programs that had actually come from one of their housing properties that could talk very eloquently about the work that we'd done and the impact that had had on her, and actually how it made a difference to her being able to keep home and bring in a wage so that she could continue to pay a rent and things like that. And it was very kind of critical to building that. So what they benefited from was understanding how to work with children and young people as a voice for change in their communities and with their, so I can kind of really sort of see them, but knowing that was something that was a real,
it was on their plate to start with.
Then we were able to sort of present that kind of case much more clearly and things. So, I think that's a real golden nugget, I think, is finding that, as you say, finding that those overlap points and then really targeting sort of how you approach that and finding where that information is. I guess it like you say, is quite difficult because quite often they're closed books. But
I think if you just try to look at it from solving a problem, so try and think about what might be the problem that they have. A good example would be this. The theatre in America that I sponsor, which is to do with improv comedy. One of the things they do for businesses is courses in generating ideas. Now, if you're a marketing department and you've run out of ideas, this is perfect for you, and it has real value. And you can always charge a bit more to a corporation than you would to an individual. If it's a success, it's a regular gig. And suddenly you've now got a revenue stream that is what you love doing, but is mapped onto a real problem that they had. And I think
Yeah, no, that's great. So, that was sort of the second part of my question, really, which was about how do some of those things then turn potentially into, I guess, the golden ticket, really, that kind of the sort of financial investment. And, you've given that as an example. But I guess in terms of considering that sort of next step from those, is the sort of, how do you think individuals should consider sort of developing that next phase and stuff? And I know you said that you'd been advising the theatre on